SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Dear students, you are welcome in this class. I am Dr. Dinesh Kumar, Principal Scientist from Division of Agronomy, ICAR, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, Pusa Campus, New Delhi. Now we are going to have lecture number 9 in the course Agronomy of Oilseed, Fiber and Sugar Crops. The topic of this lecture number 9 is Origin, History, Area, Production, Classification, Improved Varieties and Cropping Systems of Groundnut. So, learning objectives of this lecture are to discuss the origin, means where this crop has originated, history of groundnut crop spread, area and production of groundnut, area and production productivity of groundnut crop will be discussed at world level, different country level, and also in India what are the area production productivity of this crop in different states as well as trends in India. The detailed classification of groundnut crop, its improved varieties and different cropping systems. In cropping systems, you will see sequential cropping systems as well as intercropping and mixed cropping systems of this crop. Some glossary before actually I start the lecture. So, it is necessary to understand some important words. Annual crops, crop plants that complete their life cycles within a season or a year, such as rice, wheat, maize, mustard and tobacco. What is crop? A plant or plant product that can be grown and harvested extensively for profit or sustenance. That is called as a crop. But in a simpler words, you can call it a group of plants which have economic value for human being and or animals. C3 plants, class of plants in which the first product of CO2 fixation is 3-carbon compound, that is C3 plant, and you can also have C4 plant where first product of photosynthesis is a 4-carbon compound, and third group can be CAM plants, CAM, crassulacean acid metabolism plants. Then crop diversity, variance in genetic and phenotypic characteristics of plants used in agriculture. Over time, there has been major decline in crop diversity, genetic diversity within each crop and number of species commonly grown. This crop diversity is very important for reducing the incidence of insect pests and diseases or for crop protection you can say, and this diversity can be in time and space. Time it can be achieved through crop rotations, and in space it can be achieved through intercropping or mixed cropping systems. So, in general the number of crops which were grown in a particular area have decreased over years. So, therefore, there is decline in the crop diversity in the country. Land form, it is any physical recognizable form, feature of the earth's surface having a characteristic shape and produced by natural causes. So, land forms, for example, you have mountains, hills, flat land, slopy land, these kind of configurations are your land forms. Landscape, it is a collection of related land forms, usually the land surface which the eye can comprehend in a single view, that is landscape. Latitude, the location north or south in reference to the equator, which is designated at 0 degrees. Lines of latitude are parallel to the equator and circle the globe. Native plant, a plant species indigenous to an area not introduced from another environment or area. So that is called as native plant. It is opposite to the exotic plant. Exotic plants that have been brought to a locality, to a country from other locality or other areas or other country. Phenotype, the characteristics of an organism as determined by the interaction of genetic constitution and the environment. So phenotype mainly includes external features of an individual, of a plant, and that are influenced by the interaction of genetics or genetic characters and the environment. Now we go into the actual part of the lecture about the groundnut. Let us know why this groundnut is important. What are the features it contains so that people like it to grow. So the word Arachis hypogaea, which is scientific name of groundnut, Arachis hypogaea L is for Linnaeus, has been derived from the Greek word. It is from the Greek word Arachis. Arachis meaning legume, hypogaea meaning below ground. As you know that groundnut pods are born in the ground. They are prepared in the ground. Therefore, it is hypogaea. Groundnut is also known as earth nut because it is produced in the earth or soil. Peanut, monkey nut, goober, pinda and manila nut. So it is known by variety of names. In the market, people call it peanut, but farmers call it groundnut. So groundnut is cultivated for its kernel. Kernel is actually the seed which is inside the pod. So it is cultivated for kernel that is rich in oil, maybe 45% oil. Sometimes this oil can go up to 49 or even 50% in certain plant types. And protein in general is 20% protein. So you can see it is full of energy. Lot of fat is there or oil is there and lot of protein is there. So groundnut kernel as a whole is highly digestible also. So it has some many positives. Now let us see the nutritional composition of the groundnut. So as you have seen that protein, fats and fiber, these are three important components of the groundnut. All these components are present in their most beneficial forms. The protein is plant-based. This is of course plant-based protein. The fat is unsaturated. Unsaturated fats are really good for our health. And the fiber is complex carbohydrate which are all proved to be the best for human nutrition. So it contains everything for our growth, our development. So it is really rich in nutrients. Now you can see groundnut, all types, nutritional value per 100 gram reported by Arya and co-workers in 2015. In the first column you have the component or the principal and then nutrient value per 100 gram. So you can see energy is 567 kilocalorie. Carbohydrates are 16.13 gram or here it is on 100 gram basis. Therefore, it can be 16%, you can say 16.13%. Similarly, protein can be 25.8% and total fat can be 49.24% or gram. Or cholesterol is 0 mg. That means it is good for health. And then dietary fiber is just 8.5%. So it is nutritionally very rich. And not only this, it may contain number of vitamins also, number of minerals also. Let us see the different vitamins that are found in groundnut seed. So you can say in 100 gram, how much are the vitamins? Like folates, 240 microgram, niacin quite high, 12.066 milligram, then pantothenic acid 1.767 gram, pyridoxine 0.348 milligram. These are in milligram. Pantothenic acid is in milligram 1.767. Then C riboflavin, important vitamin, 0.135 milligram, and then vitamin A you can see 0 IU, international unit. So vitamin A is absent, vitamin C is also absent, but vitamin E is there which is about 8.33 milligram. So it is a concentrated source of food. Just now you have seen as it is 1 gram supply about 5.8 calories in comparison to 4 calories by sugar and 3.5 by whole wheat. So, definitely it is rich in calories. Biological value of protein is also high. Biological value here means that its absorption is quite good. Absorption in human intestine is quite good. So, groundnut is also a rich source of thiamine, riboflavin, nicotinic acid and vitamin E. Just now you have seen the exact values of these vitamins in 100 gram groundnut seed. It is mainly used for manufacture of vegetable oils. So, groundnut oil is quality oil and it is used for cooking purposes in the country. In some countries of Europe, India, USA and Southeast Asia, kernel is directly consumed by humans after roasting or deep frying and salting. In India, you must have seen that people use raw kernels also, and they also use roasted kernels also. It is quite common feature in our country, particularly in winter months. People eat lot of mungfali or lot of groundnut. The seed cakes obtained after extraction of oil is a valuable source of organic manure and animal feed. You know, this groundnut seed contain oil, and this oil can be extracted by different mechanism, different methods, and what is left is actually your cake, oilseed cake or groundnut cake, which is a good animal feed. Good animal feed, and sometimes if it is in excess and not of good quality, it can also be used as a manure for improving soil fertility. So, globally about 50% of the groundnut produced is used for oil extraction. So, you can see the prime use, the first use of groundnut is for extracting the oil. About 37% for confectionery and 12% for seed purposes. So, different purposes are there for this. In India, about 50% of total produce is used for oil extraction and about 10% for seed, 10% for direct food uses and about 10% is exported. So, this is how this groundnut production is used in different sections. Its inclusion in crop rotation builds up soil fertility by fixing atmospheric nitrogen. So, you know that this groundnut is a leguminous plant, or it is also called as oilseed legume. Although it is a legume plant, normally legume plants are used as dal, but this particular legume plant, groundnut, also give us oil. So, it is called as oilseed legume, and being legume, it has to form the root nodules which fixes atmospheric nitrogen. This fixed atmospheric nitrogen in the root nodule helps the groundnut plant to grow, and some part of the fixed nitrogen is left in the soil after the harvest, which is called as residual nitrogen. Means whatever is left unused by the groundnut plant is called residual nitrogen. It also serves as an efficient cover crop for reducing soil erosion and water conservation, because sometimes it grows quite prolifically on the land, and then it can cover the surface, and it can also suppress weeds also under certain conditions and conserve the water and conserve the soil. Now, coming to the origin and history of groundnut. So, groundnut is the plant of family Fabaceae, that is Leguminaceae, genus Arachis and species Hypogaea. The genus was distributed in Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, Peru and Uruguay, with the largest number of species reported from Brazil, followed by Bolivia. So, you can see basically this groundnut looks to be South American crop. These South American countries like Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, etc. have this crop in olden time also. Arachis hypogaea is believed to have originated in North Argentina and southern Bolivia, as this region is considered the primary center of diversity. Primary center of diversity means the place, the country where you have highest diversity of a species. Diversity with respect to duration, with respect to leaf, with respect to flower, with respect to other parameters, phenotypic parameters, variety of genotypes are there. So that means they have more diversity, great diversity. Krapovicas 1968 finally recognized the Bolivian desert region. Bolivian means Bolivia. Bolivian desert region as the primary center of origin of the cultivated groundnut. It probably reached Eastern Asia by way of Mexico and Philippines by Spanish travelers. It spread to Africa from Brazil by the Portuguese in the 16th century and later into India via Africa. Means it was not basically an Indian crop, but it came from Africa to India. By the middle to the late 19th century, groundnut assumed considerable agricultural importance in the USA, India and West Africa. Indeed, Africa has been a tertiary center of diversity. It is considered as a tertiary center of diversity. Groundnut is so deeply integrated with African society that nobody will believe that groundnut is an introduced crop. So people use this crop very much in Africa. Now coming to the area, production and yield or productivity of this crop. So presently groundnut is grown in over 100 countries, spread over 6 different continents, or you can say except Antarctica, it is grown almost on all the continents. It is raised on an area of about 32 million hectare in the world. Means in year 2021, the area was 32 million hectare. 1 million is equal to 10 to the power 6. If you multiply these 32 by 10 to the power 6, then that figure will be in hectares. Then million will be removed. The most important groundnut producing countries are China, India, Nigeria, Sudan, USA and Senegal. So you can see although it originated in Bolivia or Argentina or some other South American countries, but it is grown more in these countries: China, India, Nigeria, Sudan, USA and Senegal. Among groundnut producing countries, India has the distinction of having highest area. It stands first, about 5.97 million hectare area in India, which is about 18.2% groundnut area of the world in India. And second place goes to China in area, which is 4.73 million hectares. Coming to the production, though the area is less in China than India, but production is more in China. China with 18.3 million tons. See, 34% of the world's production of groundnut comes from China. And while the USA ranks first in the productivity, the yield per unit area is highest in USA, United States of America. So you can see the yield is about 4.5 tons per hectare or 4,500 kilograms per hectare yield of groundnut in USA. The gap in the average productivity of groundnut among the countries is very high, as can be seen in the table. Now you see the data of the world. Let us see the countries in the first list: area in million hectare, then production in million tons, and yield or productivity in kilogram per hectare. So here you can say India has the largest area, which is about 5.97 million hectare or 18% of the world area. Then China has 4.73 million hectare area. The third country in area is Nigeria, having 4.72 million hectare, Sudan 3.94, Senegal 1.21, USA smaller area, much smaller than India and China. It is 0.62 million hectare only. Myanmar has sizable area, 1.15 million hectare, and also Argentina have a smaller area of 0.4. So you can see at world level in year 2021, the area was about 32.7 million hectare. Now coming to the production, you can see although India is having 5.97 million hectare area and China 4.73. But production is more in China, 18.3 million tons. In India, it is 10.2 million tons. And then next is Nigeria, about 4.6 million tons. Sudan 2.35, Senegal 1.68. USA has very high production, you can see 2.9 million tons compared to Senegal. And then Myanmar 1.6, Argentina 1.27, and if you see at world level, it is 53.9 million tons total production in 2021. Now question comes that USA has very small area, 0.62 million hectare, but the production is very high, 2.9 million tons. It is high because of high productivity. You can see in the list, in the last column, you can see USA has highest productivity of 4,635 kilogram per hectare. So which is really quite high. The next best here looks to be this China, which produced 3,871 kilogram per hectare. So it is interesting that productivity is high in USA and China. Take the case of India, our productivity is only 1,716 kilogram per hectare, which is almost half, or you can say the Chinese productivity of groundnut is more than double of India, more than double of India. Of course, Sudan has very low productivity, 598 kilogram per hectare. Senegal also lower productivity of 1382 kg per hectare. And you see the average productivity of the world is 1,648 kilogram per hectare, which is almost close to India. India's productivity is little higher, say 100 kg higher or roughly 100 kg higher than the world productivity. So we can say that our productivity is quite near to the average productivity of the world, which is really, we need to think over it, why the productivity of groundnut is low even than the world average in India. Now more details about it. In India, the productivity of groundnut is 1760 kg per hectare against the world's average productivity of 1648 kg per hectare and 3871 in China. So groundnut accounts for 20.9, or you can say 21% of the area and 28% of the production of the total oilseeds in India. So it handsomely contributes to the oilseed production in India, groundnut. The area under groundnut increased slowly till 1990-91 and then started falling to 6.01 million hectare in 2021. So now the area is slightly lower. The groundnut production increased from 3.9 million ton in 1951-52 to 10.2 million tons in 2022-21. So production has increased, area has increased initially, then started decreasing. The groundnut yield increased from 649 kilogram per hectare in 1951-52 to 1703 kilogram per hectare in 2021. Now you can check the same data here. Trend in area, production and yield of groundnut in India since 1951. So you can see first column is year, then area million hectare, then production million ton and then yield kilogram per hectare. In 1951-52, area was 4.01 million hectare, then increased to 6.46, 7.33 in 1970-71, and from here it started almost falling. So in 60-61, 70-71, it was 7.33 and now it declined to 6.8 in 80-81, 6.56 in 2001 and 2010-11 5.86, then further reduced to 4.82 in 2019-20, and finally now there is slight increase in 2021 over the 19-20. So currently you can say area is 6 million hectare in India. Now coming to the production, production is almost, if you see the general trend, that the production is increasing continuously from 1951-52 onward. Initially, it was 3.19 million ton in 1951-52, then 4.81, 6.11, 5.01, 6.41, almost except one case, rest you get the increasing trend in production in India. And also there is improvement in productivity also. In 1951-52, productivity was 649 kilogram per hectare, which has increased to 2063 in 2019-20, and again there is slight decline in productivity in 2021. So currently you can say the productivity of groundnut in India is 1703. In India, groundnut cultivation is mostly confined to Gujarat is the most important state for groundnut, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. So these are the prominent states where groundnut is a dominating crop. The other important states are Madhya Pradesh, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. Now see the contribution of different states to the production in million tons, area million hectare and yield kg per hectare. So this data is for 2 consecutive years, 2019-20 and 2020-21. Area is in million hectare, production million ton and yield is in kilogram per hectare. In the first column you can see the state of Gujarat. Gujarat has highest area of 1.69 million hectare in 1920. In 2021 you can see 2.16. So I am just showing you the data of 2021. See this column. So in Gujarat it was 2.16, in Andhra Pradesh 0.87, in Tamil Nadu 0.41, Rajasthan 0.85, Karnataka 0.72, Maharashtra 0.31 likewise. So you are seeing that the area is roughly decreasing in these states from top to the down. So Gujarat, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan and Karnataka are the major states having more area, producing more groundnut also. Now see the production also, just see the column of production 2020 and 2021. See this column. So production in Gujarat is highest among all the states. You can see it is 4.13 million ton. And next important state is Rajasthan, where the production is 1.93. So you can say Rajasthan ranks second in production and first rank goes to Gujarat in year 2021 and then third rank goes to Tamil Nadu with production of 1.02 million tons. Other important states like Andhra Pradesh produce 0.77 million tons groundnut, Karnataka 0.72, Maharashtra 0.41, MP 0.52, UP very small 0.11 million ton, and all India basis the production was 10.2 million tons. Now coming to the productivity, coming to the yield kg per hectare, just see for the year 2021. So in Gujarat productivity was 1911, Andhra Pradesh 890 kilogram per hectare and Tamil Nadu has highest productivity. You see Tamil Nadu has highest productivity of groundnut which is about 2502 kilogram per hectare. Next important state, number 2 state is Rajasthan, where groundnut productivity was 2256 kilogram. The third state you can say looks to be Gujarat and it is 1911. Other states like Andhra Pradesh produce 890 kilogram per hectare groundnut and Karnataka 999, Maharashtra 875, MP 1786 and so on. If you take the average of the whole India, it is 1703 kilogram per hectare. The average in 2019-20 for all India was 2063. So you can see that the productivity has decreased from 1920 to 2021. Now top 5 states producing groundnut for the year 21-22. Last data was for you can see 2021. This is the latest data for 21-22 as students know that these data change every year. So now you see the major states, 5 states: Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh. And here you can see area of different states in 21-22. Gujarat had 1.99, or you can say 2 million hectare, Andhra Pradesh 0.82, and Rajasthan 0.80. The area has declined in Rajasthan. Karnataka 0.58 and Madhya Pradesh 0.39 million hectare. Coming to the production, Gujarat has the highest production, which is 4.49 million tons. The next is Rajasthan, 1.7 million tons, and other states like Andhra Pradesh produce 0.52 million tons, Karnataka 0.49 million tons, and Madhya Pradesh 0.67 million tons. Coming to the productivity, you can see the trend is reversing. In 21-22, now Gujarat has very high productivity, which is 2,258 kilogram per hectare. Next state is Rajasthan with a productivity of 2,132, and MP producing 1,721, Karnataka 846 kilogram per hectare, and Andhra Pradesh lowest among the list, 625 kg per hectare of groundnut. Now see the classification of the groundnut. Based upon branching pattern, the cultivated groundnut is divided into Virginia, Spanish and Valencia groups. So there are 3 major groups of cultivated groundnut. The presence or absence of reproductive nodes on the main axis and the arrangement of reproductive and vegetative nodes on the laterals are the most important criteria for the classification. Means these nodes, basically nodes, reproductive and vegetative nodes, and also the reproductive nodes on the main axis. So you have 2 kind of axis, one is main axis, other are branches. In branches also you can have branch axis. So this reproductive node on the main axis and both reproductive and vegetative nodes on the laterals or on the, you can say, branches. Now in Virginia group, main axis is not reproductive, this is one. Also alternating pairs of vegetative and reproductive axes are borne on the cotyledonary laterals and other secondary branches. So you can say this axis is plural. If you want singular of axis, that is AXIS, axis. So axis means here there are many. This system is termed as alternate branching pattern. The first 2 branches on the secondary laterals are always vegetative. In the Spanish and Valencia group, the reproductive branches are borne in a continuous series on the successive nodes of the cotyledonary and other lateral branches, on which the first branch is always reproductive. The above pattern of branching is termed as sequential branching. It is in sequences. Therefore, it is called as sequential branching. Reproductive branches are also borne directly on the main axis at higher nodes. Most of the tertiary and quaternary branches are reproductive. The Spanish cultivars produce tertiary vegetative branches irregularly, while Valencia type frequently have none. So what happens? Main axis will give you primary branches. These primary branches can give you secondary branches, and secondary branches can give you tertiary branches. This is how branching happens. The genus Arachis 2n is equal to 40. This is somatic chromosome number, has 69 species. The cultivated Arachis hypogaea is divided into 2 subspecies, Fastigiata waldron and Hypogaea ropov and rigoni. The subspecies are again divided into 4 and 2 varieties respectively, as given in the next slide. So you can see now Arachis hypogaea subspecies Fastigiata. Floral axis present both on main and lateral branches. On both, branching sequential and further divided into 4 varieties. This Fastigiata, number 1, fruits with a smooth or lightly marked reticulation. Reproductive branches are short and thin. Next is Peruviana, fruits with very marked reticulation, long and strong reproductive branches, can be 5 to 10 centimeter. Next is Equatoriana. Leaflets have hairy 1 to 2 millimeter dorsal surface. Then Vulgaris. Fruits are two-seeded, branches and point to the base of the plant. Number 2 subspecies, Arachis hypogaea is subspecies hypogaea. Central axis without flowers. Branches alternate regularly, alternate ramification. The subspecies has been divided into two varieties. One variety is hypogaea itself. Hypogaea leaflets with glabrous dorsal surface or with some hair along midrib. Hirsute leaflets with hairy 1 to 2 millimeter dorsal surface. The entire surface is hairy. So these are some of the distinguishing features of different subspecies. Classification according to the growth habits, the erect or bunch type. First of all, you can see based upon the growth habit whether they are spreading, semi-spreading, erect or bunchy type. So overall, there are two groups here. The erect or bunch type includes Arachis hypogaea, subspecies fastigiata. It is short duration, early maturing, high yielding and almost free from dormancy. So these are the characteristics of bunch type or erect type. The spreading or trailing type include Arachis hypogaea, subspecies procumbens. It has long duration, late maturing and being dormant in nature. So these are the two classes, and students should know the differences in erect or bunch type and spreading or trailing type. Now, characteristics of main axis and laterals. So now these two groups can be further divided into several groups like erect, bunch, spreading, semi-spreading, trailing. So previously you have seen just two groups, and these two groups have been further divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups now. So there are certain characteristics. For example, erect. Main axis in erect is short and erect. Bunch type, main axis is long and erect. Main axis in spreading is very short and erect. In semi-spreading, it is intermediate between bunch and spreading type. In trailing type or climbing type, you can say medium length and erect. Coming to laterals, erect, slightly oblique to main axis but almost parallel in erect type of varieties. Then this bunchy type, laterals are oblique to the main axis. In spreading types, laterals spread horizontally along ground, usually an inch above the ground except at the tips. Now laterals in semi-spreading prostrate up to a few internodes and then begin to ascend in a bow-shaped pattern. And then in trailing type, laterals trail the ground, trail on the surface. They are flat on the ground up to the extreme tip. So these are the major differences in 5 subclasses of the groundnut. Now, after seeing the classification or taxonomy, let us switch over to the varietal development. Varieties are very, very important because we want varieties which yield you more and which have more quality. Quality means quality of the oil and content of the oil. The thrust of the breeders have been in improving the varieties for high yield, for high oil yield, and also for making varieties against the biotic and abiotic stresses. So groundnut improvement work first initiated by Van der Stock in Netherlands and the East Indies at world level. He isolated a number of pure lines from a cultivated variety by selection of a single plant. So selection was the breeding method by him. Then Badami from UK stated that the primary selection should be based on the plants with the larger number of mature pods, and the final selection on the highest weight of the seeds per plant. Means the pod size has to be large and the seed weight and pod weight has to be large or more. In USA, early breeding work on groundnut was done in Florida. It was observed that existing types did not combine desirable characters or characteristics like seed dormancy, erect plant type, large seed, dark green foliage, and light tan seed with high or low oil content. It was further suggested that such types could only be produced by hybridization. So, you need to create variability for selection. Then hybridization could be the better means. Breeding work done in USSR, former USSR you can say, since 1926 suggested that pure line selection did not give favorable results, hence considered for hybridization. Higgins 1941 reported that hybridization and then selection many promising strains were isolated. So, it is important to go for hybridization in groundnut. Bofill 1947 from Senegal said that selection based external botanical characteristics like number of pods per plant, the mean weight of plant was not successful. Darlington 1948 reported that there was a large scope of enriching available variation in the groundnut by crossing the cultivated groundnut which was tetraploid with the wild diploid species. This also suggests that let us go for hybridization. Gregory et al. 1951 from North Carolina, USA and Sheshadri from India 1951 suggested that hybridization was essential for the improvement of groundnut quality. So, not just quantity, you need hybridization for quality also. Norden from Oklahoma, USA suggested hybridization success depend on availability of the transferable genetic variation and was more likely if the correct parents are chosen. In groundnut breeding history of India, 1905 and 1961 represent important landmarks. Groundnut cultivar Spanish improved, developed at Dharwad, was released in 1905 for cultivation in Bombay, Karnataka region. That time it was Bombay, Karnataka region, and this Spanish improved was developed in year 1905 and released. In 1961, C501, a Virginia bunch type cultivar or variety of groundnut derived from a cross between D3 and AH477 at Ludhiana, was released for cultivation in Punjab. Between 1906 and 1960, 12 cultivars were released in different parts of the country. AK 1224 and TMV2, both Spanish types, were released in 1940, and Carad 4-11, a Virginia runner, released in 1957, and T28, Virginia runner, released in 1960, were among them. So, these were the very important varieties of that time, or you can say these were the historical varieties. During 1961 to 79, 28 more varieties or cultivars were released. Of these, 11 originated through hybridization and 17 by mass selection or pure line selection method of breeding. Groundnut breeding in India made a dent in 80s when 30 new cultivars were released, 20 Spanish, 7 Virginia and 3 Virginia runner types. So, you can see here Spanish type were more in number. Of these, 80% were cross derivatives, means they were developed through the means of hybridization. During this period, 80s, emphasis was given on the stress resistance breeding. As a result of above, foliar diseases resistance cultivars like Grinar 1, ICGS 10 and ICGV 86590 were released during this period. So, now thrust has switched over to the biotic stresses also. Similarly, ICGS 11, ICGS 37 and ICGS 44 were released for post-rainy season cultivation in different parts of the country. In the end of 1992, 72 of the groundnut cultivars were released for different conditions. Research program carried out in ICR ICRISAT collaboration on groundnut production technology in India has shown that the groundnut productivity or yield potential of about 5 to 7 tons per hectare. Studies also indicated that improved cultivars contributed 25 to 28%, while improved cultural practices contributed 30 to 32%. So you can see the role of varieties in the yield increase. The combination of two resulted in synergistic improvement in yield ranging from 50 to 150%. Overall, what message here is that you should have the best varieties, the high yielding varieties, and combine them with best cultural practices. So this can increase your yield substantially. Now, state-wise recommended varieties of groundnut, you can see for Andhra Pradesh there are number of varieties which are listed here. The important one was Ajaya, ICGV 00348, VRI, Kadri 7, Grishma, Kadri 8, Kadri 9, Mallika, JPS 39, Vijeta, Bhima, Rohini, and so on. You can see number of varieties have been recommended for Andhra Pradesh like Dheeraj, Pragati, etc. Similarly, for Chhattisgarh, it is Mallika, CG, Moongfali 1, Phule Bharti. For Gujarat, Mallika, GL 501, and you can see Phule Morna, Phule Varna, Padma, Girnar. There are a number of varieties for Gujarat also. And then for Jharkhand and Bihar, Mallika, Vijeta, and Phule Morna, BAU 25, GJG 19. Similarly, for Kerala, Ajaya, ICGV 00348, VRI GN6, Mallika, Phule Morna, Phule Varna, Vijeta, Girnar 5, and many more varieties are there. Similarly, for Madhya Pradesh, Jawahar Groundnut 23, Mallika, and ALG 06320, Phule Bharti, Naitya Haritha. For Maharashtra, Ajaya, Mallika, Vijeta, Kadri, Harindra, Phule Vyas, Phule Varna, Phule Morna, Phule Bharti, Phule Unnati. So many varieties are there. For Odisha, it is Mallika, Vijeta, Girnar 3, GJG 6, GJG 18, Phule Morna, Raj Moongfali 2, Kalinga 101, etc. For Rajasthan, TG9, Girnar 2, Utkarsh, Mallika, Pratap, Raj Moongfali, Raj Moong 3, Phule Varna, Pratap Moongfali 3, etc. For Tamil Nadu, Ajaya, ICGV 00348, Mallika, Vijeta, Phule Varna, Phule Morna, CO7, TMV 14, etc. For Uttar Pradesh, Girnar 2, Utkarsh, Mallika, etc. West Bengal, you get to TG 51, Vijeta, Girnar 3, etc. And for northeastern hill states, Girnar 3, Moongfali 2, and Vikas, etc. are the important varieties. For northeast hill states, Girnar 3, GJG 18, Phule Morna, Raj Moongfali 2, and Vikas, etc. are the recommended varieties. And now we go to the next subject, which is cropping system. So cropping system is actually how the rotations of the crops are arranged on a farm and how intercropping or mixed cropping is adopted on the farm, that we are going to discuss. So groundnut has been an important part of crop rotations or cropping system, and also intercropping and mixed cropping system in the country. So groundnut is grown in rotation with wheat. Wheat means in Kharif you can take groundnut and then wheat in the Rabi. Gram, pea, barley, etc. It is grown as mixed crop with maize, palm millet, castor, sorghum, and cotton, particularly in widely spaced crops. Widely spaced crop like maize, cotton, and even pigeon pea. It can be used as a intercrop. Intercropping based upon the size or the row spacing of the crop, you can fit 1 or 2 or 3 lines or rows of this crop. It depends what ratio you are going to have about the intercropping. Groundnut can also be followed by safflower, where early varieties are raised and moisture remains in the soil at the time of harvest, particularly in Maharashtra or Karnataka or etc. You can grow the soybean with rotation of safflower. Now, what are the cropping systems with groundnut where groundnut is included. So maize, in summer season one can take maize. So summer season here may be somewhere around April, end of April, May and June. So during that period this maize can be taken, and that maize can be for fodder, for some other purposes also, maybe baby corn, and then groundnut can be taken during Kharif season, and then chickpea in the Rabi season. So next important rotation is your mustard, groundnut, onion or garlic. So mustard can be taken in Rabi, and groundnut can be taken in Kharif, and onion can be taken up again in, you can say, Rabi or partly summer. Then mung bean, early Kharif season you can take mung bean, or in summer mung bean can be taken, then groundnut and then wheat. Maize, groundnut, pea. Lobia, many of you know lobia is cowpea. It is used as a fodder crop. In some cases it is also used as a pulse crop. Then lobia, one is legume, and then groundnut, one is oilseed, and then wheat. This is quite interesting rotation. Here you get one pulse crop, one oilseed crop and one wheat crop. Then groundnut, wheat, mung bean. Groundnut is taken in Kharif, wheat in Rabi, and mung bean or urd bean is taken during summer season. In some areas of the country, during summer season, the fields remain fallow. Under those conditions, mung bean or urd bean can be taken in the summer, particularly when you have facilities for the irrigation. Then groundnut wheat is quite common crop rotation. So these are the sequences of crop rotations that can be adopted or that are being adopted, which include groundnut. Now these kind of crop rotations or sequences are also available for rain-fed areas. Rain-fed areas where there is no scope for any extra or any additional irrigation. The crop is grown solely based upon the monsoonal rainfall in Kharif season. So you can see groundnut followed by safflower. It is also a good rotation, particularly for Karnataka. Groundnut sesame can be in Rajasthan or some other area. Sesame is also very important crop, and this is oilseed crop, and both makes oilseed system. But groundnut is legume also. Then groundnut mustard rotation can also be adopted under rain-fed areas. Groundnut barley. Barley is quite hardy crop, and it can survive under residual moisture received from the rains received in Kharif season. So groundnut barley can also be adopted maybe in Rajasthan or some other areas. Groundnut chickpea also a good rotation, and then groundnut lentil. So in this case you can see that during Kharif it is mostly groundnut or all groundnut, and during Rabi season you can either take safflower, sesame, mustard. These three are your oilseed crop, means oilseed rotation, and then oilseed cereal rotation is also possible. You can take barley here in place of wheat. Wheat is possible in irrigated areas, and then two legumes can be taken, either of these during the Rabi time, that is chickpea or lentil. So these kind of rotations are quite good, particularly from the point of view of soil health. Now mixed or intercropping. Definitely intercropping is beneficial, it is more remunerative, and the extra space is utilized. Mostly in wider spaced crop like maize, cotton, pigeon pea, etc. you will get lot of weed growth in the interspaces, and that space can be utilized by some intercrop. So that intercrop here can be groundnut between the two rows of these crops. So some remunerative intercropping systems for different states have been recommended to increase the income obtainable per unit area and time. So here you can increase the income per unit area per unit time. It is considered as spatial as well as temporal. The most suitable companion crops are sorghum, palm millet and maize. So these are all cereals. So cereal plus groundnut. Then red gram, black gram, green gram, these are pulses. So pulses plus oilseed or pulses plus groundnut, and sunflower, castor and sesame. So here you can have oilseed plus oilseed. So lot of options are available for intercropping of groundnut. Groundnut-based intercropping systems were evolved for different agroclimatic zones to minimize the risk factors associated with rain-fed cultivation. Some of the widely adopted intercropping systems in different parts of the country are presented in the table in the next slide, and these were suggested by Basu in 1995. So these are really very efficient cropping system for groundnut, and in the first column you have intercropping system, second column row proportion, and third column is states where they were adopted or they are recommended. Now you can see groundnut plus red gram. Red gram is arhar or pigeon pea. So 6:1 ratio. That means 6 rows of groundnut and 1 row of red gram. So this is quite potential intercropping system. It was recommended for Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Gujarat. Next is groundnut plus cotton. So here there can be 5 rows of groundnut and then 1 row of cotton, or you can say between 2 rows of cotton you can have 5 rows of groundnut. This cotton groundnut system is recommended for Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. Then groundnut plus palm millet, or you can say palm millet plus groundnut. It can be sorghum also in place of palm millet. So here you are going to have palm millet between 2 rows of palm millet. You can have 6 rows of groundnut, or you can other way around. You can say 6 rows of groundnut and 1 row of this sorghum, recommended for Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat. Then groundnut plus sunflower 1:1 ratio, groundnut plus castor 5:1 ratio for Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat. Groundnut plus sesame 1:1 ratio, means 1 row of groundnut and 1 row of sesame for Tamil Nadu, Gujarat. And groundnut plus black gram is your urd 6:1, means 6 rows of groundnut and 1 row of black gram for Tamil Nadu. So now you can see the pictures of the intercropping of cotton and soybean here. There are rows of cotton, rows of this groundnut here, and then you have rows of cotton. This is palm millet and groundnut 3:2, you can say 3 rows of groundnut and 1 row of barley, 1 row of palm millet. Then this is maize and groundnut cropping system, intercropping system. You can say in between 2 rows of this maize, you can have 2 rows of this groundnut. And then this is with rice also. In upland conditions, groundnut can be grown with rice also. And with maize, you can see maize groundnut system. So overall today we covered the origin, area, history, classification, taxonomy, varieties and cropping systems of groundnut crop. Hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you very much.